AI, and that's just a rough draft. Look, I know a lot of people were complaining about like the finger not being on the trigger when it was firing, and that it transitioned from a pistol to a rifle and all that. But dude, it's just a draft. We're just having some fun with it. But what he did is absolutely stunning. I've gotten a lot of positive remarks on the video. So thank you so much, AI Viper. That was freaking badass, dude. I'm trying to get my microphone squared away. Hey, what's going on, Jody Shiloh? Good seeing you. So I was debating today on whether or not I should go in landscape mode or vertical, but I chose vertical because, well, number one, because the video that AI Viper shot was in vertical mode. So I wanted you guys to see that cool bumper because I just really love it. I think it's awesome. And then also because today I'm going to go outside of my normal cop watch, police stuff, municipal police stuff, and go into the macro aspect of where they get their marching orders from. And we're going to cover a little bit about the Federal Reserve's private police force, the IRS, and what's going on with this new crypto legislation. It's unbelievable what's happening, guys, with this crypto legislation. A lot of people are just XRP and Ethereum's blowing up. It's just outrageous what's going on. In a good way. And, I've been benefiting a lot from my MSTY and my MicroStrategy, and Tesla's popping back up. So a lot of really good things are happening, but we're overdue for a recession, guys. So think about that. And remember, the housing market was artificially blown up by Biden's illegal aliens. So they're no longer getting government money to rent homes. And so the housing market's starting to crash. So one of the things that I'm a big believer in is gold and silver and metals of intrinsic value, like what our founding fathers intended for this country. And one of my biggest beefs that I have with the current federal government is in 1913, Woodrow Wilson betrayed America and turned our country over to private bankers. And I believe that he was a traitor, and that he should have been tried for treason with the capital punishment as the penalty, because that was the beginning of the end of the United States of America. Before, we were a tariff-based system. There was no income tax. We had no national debt under Andrew Jackson. And of course, in the public school system, we're taught to hate our founding fathers and people like Andrew Jackson by the Rockefeller created education system, which we've covered in some of my other videos. So today we're going to do a show that's tailored to explain the tax law penalties and the police seizure provisions under the new U.S. cryptocurrency legislation. And we're going to talk about the repeal of the DeFi broker rule, IRS Form 1099-DA requirements. But before I get too far into it, I just want to tell you that I'm a lawyer licensed to practice law in Texas and California. I primarily do bodily injury claims, but I'm rebranding the channel to reflect what I really believe in, which is natural law. I am a natural law advocate. This channel, in my philosophy, is based upon the unalienable truth that our rights come from a creator, not from the state, and that less government means more freedom. Repeat after me, less government means more freedom. And I was very fearful with this crypto legislation going through that the banksters and the BlackRock, the Chomo societies, were going to get their hands back on our currency, the new currency, which is cryptocurrency. And we're going to talk a little bit about how money, Federal Reserve notes are morphing away from the Federal Reserve system into a cryptocurrency. And we'll talk about, well, how is that something of intrinsic value like gold or silver? The same way that the left would argue that you should only have muskets, right? Because that's what people had at the time of the revolution. You shouldn't be able to have a standard capacity magazine. And of course, our counter argument to that is, well, then under the First Amendment, you're not entitled to a typewriter because there were no typewriters in existence. So we can play their semantic word salad all day long if they want to do that. But I'm a civil libertarian. I am a recovering Democrat. I used to be a Democrat when the Democrats supported civil liberties. They weren't into social media censorship and silencing people who had a different point of view. So I'm firmly convinced that both parties are a uniparty system. And I like Elon Musk's concept of a third party. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree that a third party might be a good idea. Maybe how about 10 parties? Because when the government's not passing laws, that means that you have more freedom, right? The less laws that are passed. In fact, we should be voting for people who delete laws, right? Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. So let me, I agree with you, Kentucky. I think that Trump is pretty smart when it comes to finance. And I think compared to Sleepy Joe, Auto Pen Joe, he's a far better leader than Auto Pen Joe ever could have been. But again, Trump is a typical Northeastern Democrat. He's from the old school, back when Democrats still, when they didn't burn American flags and wave rainbow flags and try to tell your kids, tell your little girl that she's a boy, or tell your little boy that he's a girl, right? That's the old school. So he's an old school Democrat, more along the lines of what I would identify with. So what I'm going to do really quickly, hopefully you guys like that bumper, by the way. I really thought it was cool. So this is, just to start the show off, this is what I typically would cover on my show. All right. Just give me 1 second here. I would typically cover things like this. Hold on. And I still do. Corrupt police, corrupt government officials, DEI hires gone wild, judges gone wild, right? But now we're going to get into some other stuff. But first, I'm going to show you what I typically cover, because I want my traditional audience to know that I'm still not done covering the police state, but I'm going to cover it from the top down from now on. And I've rebranded my channel as the Natural Law Lawyer. Okay, so I'm no longer Michael Ehline, personal injury attorney. I am Michael Ehline, the Natural Law Lawyer. And that, because that's what I really do. That's what I believe in. This is my personal channel. Don't be confused with my law firm and the associates and attorneys at my firm. This is my personal belief system, not to be confused with anything that the law firm does. I primarily do catastrophic injury cases, motorcycle accidents, big rig truck accidents, primarily military veterans who get screwed by insurance companies, because I just can't stand it that my brothers in arms are getting screwed. I'm a 70% disabled U.S. Marine, and I love my veterans, and I work with the Leathernecks Motorcycle Club, Leathernecks Forever, Forever Leathernecks, LFFL guys. That's the club that I support, and I'm all about natural law and helping my brothers. And so, but what I'm going to do right now is just play a quick video of what we normally cover, and then I'll segue into what we're going to cover today.
This former Milwaukee cop will be locked up for his role in a strip search scandal. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vince Vetrano.
And I'm Sam Sotis. You're watching Live at Noon.
20 days behind bars and community service. That was the sentence for a former Milwaukee police officer involved in an illegal cavity search scandal.
Prosecutors say Jacob Knight knew what was happening and did not stop it. Jonah Kaplan was in the courtroom this morning and has reaction.
Like most other cases, this sentence drew deep divisions. On the one hand, you had Milwaukee police officers supporting their colleague and saying this light sentence reflects the fact that the onus should really be on the checks and balances. Where were the sergeants and where were the captains? But on the other side, you have folks questioning whether this sentence is really a strong message to police officers. Don't do this.
In other words, where's the leadership, right? That's what this show is going to really start focusing on, is the leadership. And we're going to cover the financial system, well, actually the monetary system, or fiat currency and crypto today, but just keep listening.
Again, already without a police uniform, Jacob Knight now has to give up civilian clothes too, but only for 20 days. Several officers attended today to support their former colleague.
These were hard-working officers working at a district
Nice
level that if there was any error in judgment, maybe we need to take a look at the command.
Crivello heads the police union, and despite the sentence given, wouldn't consider Knight guilty.
They have sergeants, lieutenants, and captains to assure that these type of things don't happen. And right now we're looking at only the officers.
In his decision, the judge called out Knight for not stepping up and instead failing to uphold high police standards. Attorneys for the victims worry the sentence doesn't reflect that message.
But the concern is that it goes beyond just these officers, and we have allegations of a number of other officers in a number of other districts doing some of the same kinds of things. And I don't know if it sends the message. I keep hearing every time there's a case like this, does it send the message, but then we have another case like this.
So clearly the case is far from closed, and there's still 2 officers left to go to trial, and they'll head to court next week. In front of police headquarters, Jonah Kaplan, today's TMJ4.
The sentence could have been harsher, but Knight made a plea deal with prosecutors. They agreed to drop one of his charges in return for his resignation from the police department.
For the first time since 9 firefighters.
All right, so you kind of got that one. So just really quickly, let me clear this off so you can see my face. Quickly, privates. So just really quickly, the police union, of course, their job is to protect their officers. So they're blaming their command. But I blame the mayor. I blame the city attorney. I blame the executive officers that are in charge, like even the president of the United States for the police state and for allowing it to get out of hand. And I blame the political contribution system where large corporations like Palantir can pay off politicians in order to get laws passed that take away more of your and my freedom. And that's what happened at Jekyll Island in 1913. And so I'm just going to show you a really quick video to get into the beginning of the end of the Republic, so you'll understand what's going on. So let's take a look at this video really quick.
It has been 247 years since the American people threw off the oppressive yoke of a foreign power and replaced it with the modern world's most glorious ruling document, the U.S. Constitution, one of the most pro-freedom constitutions in world history, and certainly in the modern world. Because, happily, the Constitution is based on the fundamental assumption that government is evil, and that people must be able to defend against it. That Constitution, in my opinion, is America's superpower. It's what separates us from the beasts and from the socialists. After all, plenty of countries have independent-minded people, like, say, Australia or once upon a time, Canada, and yet they have become docile subjects in a way that Americans have not, I think because of our Constitution.
Everybody say hi to Tiffany for me. She's one of my all-time favorite mods and guests. She's the best. Give me a bunch of ones for Tiffany. Thanks for joining me today, Tiffany.
First, Second, Fourth, and Fifth Amendments have been a lighthouse, bringing us back every time we stray, back towards a free people with the inalienable right to self-defense, both physically and politically, against what the framers saw as an inevitably predatory federal government. But the Constitution's greatest prizes are what's to come, the parts that are not currently enforced. The so-called Constitution in exile that was set aside when FDR threatened to pack the court in the 1930s. An age when such despotism was, of course, popular. And it awaits nothing more than a Supreme Court with 5 individuals bold enough to actually read the Constitution they swear to uphold. Paramount among these economically are the 10th Amendment, just 27 words long, and another 31 words in the Contracts Clause. The 10th says anything not literally spelled out in the Constitution is reserved for the people or the states. This would abolish almost everything the federal government does today. They'd be down to national defense, courts, and naming post offices.
That's right.
Essentially, every single policy pushed today in a presidential campaign, everything from Democrats, most of what comes from Republicans, is, per the 10th, unconstitutional. Among the things the 10th would abolish include the Federal Reserve, indeed paper money, because the Constitution delegates neither. The federal government is allowed to regulate money, as in ensure that a 1-ounce gold coin in fact contains 1 ounce of gold.
That's right.
It cannot print unbacked confetti. Only states can issue money, and even then only, quote, gold and silver coin. The federal government also cannot mandate the use of paper money, legal tender, and the federal government certainly cannot direct a private company, the Federal Reserve, to run our economy. The second game changer is the Contracts Clause, which says that no state shall make any law impairing the obligation of contracts. That sounds small, but it would completely transform our world. It would return us to the golden age of the late 1800s that built our modern economy. Because if you have the absolute right...
And by the way, we were a tariff-based economy. When the Marxists were able to gain control of our country with the creation of the Jekyll Island Federal Reserve disaster of 1913, it slowly morphed us into a Marxist income tax system, which I believe is unlawful. So let's just keep listening because this is unbelievable. Remember, we didn't need an income tax, and I believe that it's a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights for the government to know how much money you earn. It's none of their freaking business. We're sovereign. The people are sovereign. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree.
to contract, it means you can produce anything, you can sell anything, you can buy anything you like. That repeals the entire administrative state that is progressively crushing the American economy and threatening political rights that ultimately rest on property rights. If you can't eat, you won't speak. The Constitution, fully enforced, is the blueprint for a free and prosperous society. It's been exciting watching the Supreme Court overturn decades of bad law, and I'm hopeful that they keep going to disarm the unconstitutional monetary administrative regime that has enslaved us. It will not happen tomorrow, but I'm optimistic that we have the solution in our hands, and the fiat administrative regime is living on borrowed time. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.
So that video comes from Wall Street Bullion, and just go ahead and check out his channel, Wall Street Bullion. I'm going to drop a link really quick for you guys so you can take a look at it. Just bear with me. This is a live show, and I'm not a pro at doing this stuff. I'm a lawyer. I've been practicing law for 20 years, so this is like kind of new to me doing these YouTube videos. I've only been doing this for about a year, but thanks to your help, I've been able to pick up almost 60,000 subscribers. By the way, guys, we're almost there. Help me get some more subscribers, guys. I think we could hit 60,000 today if this show is a hit. So let's get into what really happened with my buddy Brett Pike talking about systems of control, and then we'll get into the meat of the show for today.
These systems of control and the people who are in controls of these systems get to that position through horror, and then they encode their power into law and make it look like it's this big civilized thing, when actually the epistemology, everything they do is rooted in that horror. That was the point of going at the royal family. I really don't care about them. I was using them as example.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Conscious Wealth Podcast. Today we have a guest I am extremely excited to introduce you guys to, the founder of the Classical Learner Homeschooling Company, author of the Cubs to Bears book series, Mr. Brett Pike. Quite personally, one of my favorite follows.
Absolutely.
It's been real fun keeping up with your content. I really like your videos with the conspiracy music in the background, and your TikToks and your reels and everything like that. So I'm really excited to have you on the show. Thank you for giving us your time. How are you doing today, brother?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. It's one of those perfect days here in the South.
In a few words, nothing crazy, because I mean, we'll get into all sorts of stuff, but how would you explain what you do, what you teach on?
Like you said, I'm the founder of the Classical Learner Homeschooling Company, and we prioritize educating young people so that when they're 18 years old, they're not reliant on the government, they're not reliant on corporations, they're not reliant on even their parents. And you do that through prioritizing the process of learning and critical thinking over memorization, skill development, and getting them a childhood filled with entrepreneurial experience.
Amen.
Which develops the mindset of abundance and opportunities, and then gives them the experience so that they know what to do when the time comes later in life.
Extremely well said. That's beautiful. Critical thinking is a superpower, and it's something that's lost in today's society, as you kind of touched on. Our education systems really just entrain you to memorize and regurgitate, and there's never the art of asking why, and going deeper. So I really like that. While we're on that topic, why did you choose to focus on educating children versus young adults or adults?
For me, my background was as an educator. So I got a bachelor's degree. Yes, I got a bachelor's degree in history education. I got a master's degree in birth to two special education. So I've had a very wide-ranging education in how to educate people all the way from K through 12. But after I got out of college and I got into the system a little bit, I didn't like what I saw, so I just kind of started my own thing on the side. And at the time, it was just a side business where I was working one-on-one with families. I didn't know it turned out there was a big demand for it. But all these families were hiring me to essentially set up their homeschools. How would I educate your child if they were my child? And I was doing that for about a year, and I thought, okay, well, this has been successful. So I built out a platform. I said, how can I scale this so I could leverage my time? Because I can only put so much time into one family. And I built out Homeschools Connected, and that was successful. But really, it was just sharing information and connecting families. And now this is our third year, and this is where we took the big leap, and our growth has been just amazing. It's
So
really
what I'm
blown
going
me
to do
away.
really quick,
But this
guys,
has
just
been the
bear with
first
me
year that
because
we
this
put
is a
out
long video.
original lesson plans, original unit studies, original courses that I teach myself. And we have been able to really start to build out how to give people what I call an education worthy of freedom. And it's just the beginning, because we're only getting started.
I think I
Just bear with me. I'm trying to
following
find
you
the
when you were
section.
around 20K followers or so, and you're already up. I think you were at 46K or something like that the last time that I looked. You've definitely grown, and I'm glad to see it. I think that TikTok is a funny space to grow on as well, because there's a certain type of person on there, and at least in my personal experience, a lot of them don't actually want to be helped, but it is an amazing mechanism for attracting attention, and then you can kind of hopefully convert those.
Get their claim from. Now, there's so many different parts to that video. It really is an interesting video. So the King of England now, when he was still the prince, he, maybe around the year 2000, started showing a ton of interest in Dracula's castle. Now people say, what do you mean Dracula's castle? Dracula is based off of the real life man, Vlad the Impaler. And the reason it's called Dracula is because Vlad the Impaler is Vlad Dracul. That's his name, Dracula. In 1897, they made the Dracula, the vampire character, after him. So the now King of England around the year 2000 starts showing all this interest in Vlad the Impaler. And it turns out that he's actually, so the royal family are actually the descendants of Vlad the Impaler.
That's
which
right.
is just interesting. It's not, people get so triggered. I'm like, I didn't say Vlad the Impaler is the worst, the best. I just said he is. Now, I did bring up that Vlad the Impaler got his name for the impaling. He impaled over 100,000 people allegedly, and that involves basically turning people into human shish kebabs. For those of you not familiar, think of
Yeah, you said putting sticks up people's ass.
yes, he up and out the mouth, so you could.
Oh, man.
It is. And at one point, he captured an army of 20,000 men, and rather than keeping them
I'm just going to
captives,
keep blasting through so
he,
you can
had
hear
all
the salient
20,000 of them
points.
made descendant of that, which is interesting all in its own right. And then within that video, there are other aspects of the royal family. Many people know that they are tied to Jeffrey Epstein, right? That they were involved with Jeffrey Epstein. And I mean, any involvement in that is, in fact, if you, there was a Project Veritas report that ABC had the Epstein story years ago. And they ultimately, this was all uncovered in undercover video. And they ultimately spiked the story because the royal family stopped the story from getting out. So is the largest independent landowner in the entire world. And that empire is built on horror.
Or, yeah.
And just one more thing, by the way, the whole point behind the video, because I don't care so much about the royal family, the whole point behind it that I was trying to show people, that I was trying to communicate, is these systems of control and the people who are in control of these systems get to that position through horror. And then they encode their power into law and make it look like it's this big civilized thing, when actually the epistemology of everything they do is rooted in that horror. And that was the point of going at the royal family. I really don't care about them.
So you got that?
I was using them as
Here we go.
notes of the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation, dating back to like 1910. So what he found was that these foundations got together and they actually were scheming on how to get America into World War I because they controlled the banking system, and this served their banking and financial interests, getting America in that war. So they schemed to get America into the war, and then after the war, they realized how beneficial that was to them. So they wanted to figure out a way to prevent America from ever getting back to an anti-war mindset. Now, people say, oh, well, they're not pushing war right now. Well, we could argue about that, but things change over 100 years. But the point is, at that time, that was their objective. So they wanted to prevent America from getting back to an anti-war mindset.
So you got that part. Here we go.
On the media industrial complex. And it's about understanding the mechanisms and levers that are used to control these institutions. So one side of financial literacy is teaching your children what is money? Where does this so-called money come from? How is it created in our present system? Now, I actually think there's much more important aspects of financial literacy, like the basics of assets versus liabilities and the stuff that you cover, I'm sure. But they need to know this as well. So what is money? How is money created? So basically, some schmuck politician comes along and he says, hey, we need a war. Or another schmuck politician comes along and says, hey, we need this social program. We got to give everyone free this and free that. And the American public eats it up. We're at war. Everyone's getting free stuff and they don't see why, they're getting fat and dying earlier. But so the public comes along and eats it up and they say, yeah, but we need money for this stuff. So we're going to spend money we don't have, obviously. So what happens is the United States Treasury issues treasury bonds. Now, a treasury bond, for lack of a better purpose, is basically an IOU. Treasury said, here, I'll make this piece of paper. I'm going to write IOU on it, call it a treasury bond, and we're going to put that up for sale. And you can buy them, but another institution can buy them, and that's banks. So then these smaller banks that are gigantic, like JP Morgan, come along, and they say, hey, I'll buy that bond. So they buy the bond from the government, and then they have this treasury bond that the government has guaranteed they'll pay them back with interest. So they'll pay them back the full amount plus interest in 30 years. That's how it works. It's a 30-year bond. So they then take that bond and they say, what can we do with this bond? I have an idea. Let's flip it. It's pretty valuable. So they turn around to the Federal Reserve Bank and say, hey, I have this treasury bond. The United States government will pay you back plus interest. You want to buy it? So the Federal Reserve Bank reaches into their checkbook. They write a check and they get that bond. Except it's not like when you and I write a check. When you and I write a check, there has to be money in an account. Because if you or I write a check and there's no money in the account, the check bounces and the transaction doesn't go through. The Fed doesn't play by those rules. So they write this check from an account with no money, but they have the printing machine, right? So they just print that money. So they are buying the treasury bond and getting paid back the full cost of that bond plus interest, and they're getting it for free, right? They're getting it with money they don't have, that doesn't exist. You want to talk about a rigged system. You want to talk about what really happened in 1913 with the creation of the Federal Reserve and the federal income tax. You start to see why. So they get this free treasury. I'd like a free treasury bond from the government. So they get this free bond, and then the money gets into the population. And that's one of the ways in which money is created. Now, when the government does that IOU, understand what it is. What they're saying is, we will pay you back through taxing the American population. So
People don't understand this part, so let's go into that.
The Fed is getting this bond for free. They're, money they don't have. They're getting paid back in interest, and the government is promising them, don't worry, we're going to tax the labor of all the Americans for the next 30 years on that bond. We'll pay you back. We got you, plus interest. So then you go to work, and the government taxes you, and people think they're taxing.
So you guys are saying that there's an echo. Is that a fair statement? Let me see here. Let me know if you guys are hearing an echo now when I talk, or is it only when there's a video? Do you hear anything now? I've just turned off everything. So I've just turned off everything. Let me really quickly, guys, take a look at my audio to make sure. So it looks like my comms are good. It looks like I've got everything. Let me just look at one more thing. Give me 1 second, guys. There could be an echo coming from another camera that I have set up. So just give me a second. Let me just unplug it. So are you guys still hearing an echo? Give me some 5x5s if I've got a little bit better comms now. I'm checking out my settings. I want to make sure, because we definitely do not want to have bad stuff going on with the echoes. How's that? Is that a little better? Let me know. What do you guys think? All right, so this is a video from Brett Pike. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the link to this video as well for you guys to watch later. So the echo was only on the video. Okay, well, that's good to know. All right. So, okay, it was in the video. Fine. Okay. So moving forward, we're now at a point in our technological system where this is the future. All right. This is going to blow your mind. Check this out, guys. This is going to be normal. Okay. So we went from gold and silver to fiat currency. And Brett just explained to you what that was all about. Just worthless currency based upon the promise of lying politicians, right? To crypto and AI. So check this out. That's wild to me. We've literally got like robots now that are intelligent and programmed well enough to replace humans. And for you guys who are going to the grocery stores, I mean, you're using self-checkouts. I've represented some people who were accused of theft for not scanning an item. That's why I hate using those things. And so just think about all those people who are out of a job now. They're all being replaced by robots, and our currency is being replaced by cryptocurrency. And so it's not a far stretch to say that gold and silver are that digital currency is the new gold and silver. So an argument could be made that since cryptocurrency is something backed by intrinsic value, it's actually backed by something, not just a worthless promise, that it's the new gold or silver. A lot of people call it digital gold or a store of wealth. So ultimately, what's going on, let me just move on to the next one. We'll do one more Brett Pike video, and then we'll get into the meat of my show, all right?
The number one lesson in public school is that truth comes from authority. So if you repeat what the teacher says and repeat what's in the textbook, then you're smart. And if you don't, you're dumb. The second lesson is that your self-esteem comes from authority. So if you don't repeat what the teacher said, you're dumb. The third lesson is that you should never work on anything that's not approved by authority. So you'll go 15 years without ever choosing your own assignment, and you only work on assignments given to you by the teacher, just like a 9-to-5. It's designed to create intellectual dependence. The fourth lesson is that you should know your place. Go to class when you're told to be there. Sit where you're told to sit, and make sure you raise your hand if you have to go to the bathroom. You get permission to pee. The fifth lesson is indifference. Students literally throw their assignments in the garbage when they're done because it doesn't mean anything. It's just paperwork again and again and again for 18 straight years. It doesn't matter. The sixth lesson is confusion because assignments are never in context. And the last lesson is that Big Brother is always watching. Cameras, metal detectors, hall monitors. There is no privacy. You belong to the machine. These are the 7 hidden lessons in all public schools, and John Taylor Gatto wrote about them in Dumbing Us Down. And it's why nearly 4 million Americans are homeschooling today. So reach out if you'd like to learn more. And check out my books on entrepreneurship, healthy eating, and the corruption of the food system, the Bill of Rights, morality, and so much more. ClassicalLearner.com.
All right, so that's my buddy Brett Pike. I think he's the best. And I definitely want you guys to support him and homeschool your kids. Get your kids out of the rainbow flag mafia, child groomer nonsense that is the public school and university system. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that. So now let's get into the meat of the show. And I took some notes, and I spent a good part of the day yesterday working on this. So work with me, guys. Hopefully you'll stick around. So now we're going to get into cryptocurrency and what happened with the Genius Act and these new bills. And I'm going to segue into it by saying this. The Federal Reserve private banksters that destroyed our country with fiat currency are terrified of cryptocurrency. And they found a great ally with the Democrat Party trying to create a central bank digital currency system based upon the communist Chinese and the totalitarian state of Canada model, which is if you disagree with what the government says, if you refuse to take their shots, if you refuse to eat their poison, toxic food, if you speak out against it, that you need to be silenced. You need to be silenced. And the way that they want to silence you is through cryptocurrency. So originally, cryptocurrency was, many people say, a way to get out of the fiat currency system, out of the government cheese factory, and start building a store of wealth. And so what ended up happening is now we have this cryptocurrency legislation, and some of the CBDC stuff got stripped out thanks to Marjorie Taylor Greene. But other doors and secret trap doors have been set up for the next totalitarian administration who doesn't believe in economic freedom, when they come into power, to be able to use crypto to be able to destroy your life, like they did in Canada with the truckers who refused to take the shot. Comrade Trudeau shut down their bank accounts, made it impossible for them to take money out of their accounts or cryptocurrency, whatever they wanted. They couldn't get it anymore, and basically silenced them because he wanted to make sure that everybody took Bill Gates' shot, right? So that is what happened. And that's what our big fear is, people who believe in cryptocurrency. And I do believe cryptocurrency is a good thing, as long as the government's not in any way, shape, or form involved in it. But it's too late. So a lot of people were super happy. The prices have gone up, but in actuality, I think what's really happening is cryptocurrency looks like it's going up, but what's really happening is the dollar is devaluing, because communist China and other countries created the BRICS currency system. And guess what it's based on? Silver and gold, just like what our Constitution says our currency is supposed to be based on. And so because of that, our fiat currency, the US dollar, is deflating in value. And that's a good thing from Trump's perspective, because now that $1 trillion in debt will be easier, trillions of dollars that we have in debt to our enemies like communist China will deflate. And that's the whole point behind interest rates going up and down. If you devalue the US dollar, our debt becomes lessened, right? So that's kind of what that's about. So really quickly, what I'm going to do is get into what's going on with cryptocurrency. And we're going to talk about later on a little bit about the illegal searches and seizures of your crypto cold storage wallet by regular police officers as well as the IRS. But so basically, and again, my disclaimer is this is not financial or legal advice. I am a lawyer, but I'm not a tax lawyer. So if you have any tax questions or anything, hire a professional. I'm not entering into an attorney-client relationship with any of you until you sign on the dotted line and pay a retainer fee. This is something that I do because I am a natural law advocate, and I want to educate people about getting your kids out of public schools, learning about natural law, and creating parallel systems so we can get off the government cheese. All right. So one of the things that I want to talk about is, well, it's a huge topic that we're going to tackle, and I'm going to try to tackle it as quickly as I can. But the new crypto laws for 2025, that's the topic now that we've kind of laid a foundation for what I'm about and what the channel is rebranding to try to get more into. So there are scary penalties and potential police seizures that you can face now. And whether you can sue the IRS or the police to get your crypto back is a big question. And one of the ways that a lot of people who are reaching out to me are trying to do it is either they want to move to Puerto Rico so they don't have to pay federal taxes and they're not subject to the same reporting requirements, or renouncing their U.S. citizenship and just leaving the country completely. Because third world countries now on the Freedom Index, we're very low now because we've got Marxists, the left, the Democrat Party has basically become a Marxist party, and the Republicans are just a little bit behind them, right? So you basically have two parties, one of them that's extreme, that wants to tell little boys that they can be girls, right? And the other one is a little bit less extreme, still supports the Second Amendment. But over time, that will probably erode because they all go to the public schools. And the public schools are designed to make you compliant and not understand the concept of natural law and critical thinking. They don't want critical thinkers. When Rockefeller imported our education system from Prussia into this country, He wanted a nation of workers, not of thinkers. And that's why it's so important for you to follow Brett Pike and learn more about Cubs to Bears books and educate yourselves and your children. He's got some amazing books about Jekyll Island and what happened there with the fiat currency system in this country. So in any event, renouncing your U.S. citizenship could be one of the only ways modernly to achieve true economic independence, which is crazy, right? You'd think that the country that was based on natural law and less government is more freedom would have developed into a country where it's a totalitarian government, where they have these IRS far left Marxist agents looking at anyone who's an entrepreneur or anyone who doesn't work for the government as their enemy, right? And we saw that happen under Obama, right? He used Lois Lerner to refuse to accept the Tea Party applications for nonprofits so they could help Republicans get elected. And so it's just become unbelievable to me the way everything's flipped on its head. So in any event, this is a wild ride. So grab your wallet, guys, and hit that like and subscribe button as well. All right. So let's dive in. So first of all, let's break down the new crypto tax laws and what happens if you don't follow them, because that's a big one. And then later on, we're going to talk about how the feds are seizing crypto and your options on fighting back. Okay. So, and whether you're going to ditch your U.S. passport, is that really the answer? Giving up your citizenship just so you can feed your family, is that really the answer? Let's talk about it. So the new crypto laws and the penalties in 2025 are pretty extreme, and it's not something you're hearing about on Fox or Communist News Network, CNN, or PMS NBC. So we're going to talk about it. So the IRS is tightening the screws on crypto with this legislation, which is probably why a couple of Democrats voted for it, right? So under the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, crypto exchanges like Coinbase or Kraken, and they're called brokers, by the way, now have to report your transactions to the IRS using a Form 1099-DA. So a transaction simply means even if you just purchase some crypto off of one of these centralized exchanges, now the IRS knows who you are. So later on, when a Democrat gets into power, they may decide, like I think it was Roosevelt decided that, we have to seize your crypto to pay off the national debt, just like he seized your gold, right? So that's what this is opening the door for you people who've never learned history because you went to a public school. So starting January 1st, 2025, they're reporting your gross proceeds from sales or trades. And that's why a lot of people are using non-centralized exchanges, or like what I call them, like a modern day Tupperware party for crypto, right? Where you go to meetings with people who just bring their wallets and you don't use an exchange, right? And that's what a lot of people are doing. Other people who have family members in countries like maybe El Salvador, where they have a crypto-based economy, might have a family member over there purchase a crypto wallet and try to do transactions that way. But either way, now you're facing potential problems with someone like a Lois Lerner or a Barack Obama. So that's a problem. So I don't in any way, shape, or form encourage you to try to skirt or violate any laws, because there is a way out. Renouncing your citizenship is a way, or reestablishing your residence in Puerto Rico might be a way as well. So in any event, they're now going to be reporting your gross proceeds from sales or trades. So if you sold Ethereum for $5,000, that's what the IRS is going to see. And they're going to see if you bought it for $4,500. So they'll know that you made a $500 profit. You follow me? And this is something our founding fathers never, ever, ever wanted. They never, ever wanted anything like this. They would have gone to a bloody civil war before they wanted the king to know what they were making. It's insane. So they'll report your cost basis, what you paid, and then they're going to calculate your gains or losses. And they're going to use the sample form 1099-DA to be able to do that. Now, the good news is, well, if there is any, the DeFi broker rule, which would have forced decentralized platforms like Uniswap to report user info, that did get repealed. Now it's just back to self-reporting, which I think is absurd as well. So that Uniswap got repealed in April of 25, and that was signed by President Trump, and it was a win for crypto privacy. as it could have led to 8 billion new IRS filings. Whew. But don't get too comfy, guys, because you still have to report every taxable event, sales, trades, or anything like that. Even using crypto to buy some coffee, that might be a taxable event, right? Because if you pay for like a half of a Satoshi for your coffee, but it turns out that the exchange rated it at a higher value, that means you made a gain. And so did the person that sold you the coffee. So it gets really, really scary, guys. Terrifying to me. So the IRS Form 1040 asks, under penalty of perjury, if you've dealt with digital assets. So now the penalties for screwing this up, even if you make a mistake, are brutal. They're absolutely brutal. So cryptocurrency, guys, this new law is looking more and more like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Let's talk a little bit more about it. So you could face a failure to file penalty, and that's 5% of unpaid taxes per month, up to 25%. Now, if you underreport your gains, you're going to owe back taxes, interest, and possibly a negligence penalty of 20%. I mean, the Democrats love this. I'm still in shock that they didn't all vote for it, right? This is right up their alley. Tax the crap out of people who are entrepreneurs and then give it to the illegal aliens and other people who really don't pay much in taxes so they can redistrict using the census to get more politicians in power for their party, right? So if the IRS thinks that you're willfully dodging taxes, say you're hiding Bitcoin in an offshore wallet, we just talked about that, you're looking at tax evasion charges up to $100,000 in fines or 5 years in prison per violation. So you guys really think that this law really helped you? Give me a bunch of ones if you think this helped you. Give me a bunch of twos if you're terrified of what just happened. I'm personally going to give you a bunch of twos. Hold on, let me see if I can type in some twos here. This is terrifying to me. Here I go. There's my twos for you guys. So now, yeah, tax evasion. So $100,000 in fines or 5 years in prisons for that. So in 2024, a Texas dude named Guy Algren III got indicted for not reporting 4 million in Bitcoin gains. All right. And the IRS says hundreds more cases are coming. So they're really happy about this, right? Because now they can get more IRS agents. And who does the IRS give over 90% of their political donations to? The IRS employees, to the Democrat Party. So this is going to help them get more IRS agents and more campaign funding to the Democrats, which they love that, right? Because people who make money or who are entrepreneurs are their enemy. If you've ever dealt with an IRS agent, they just assume that you have millions of dollars and that you can afford it because, hey, they're getting a government pension and a paycheck they're taking care of for the rest of their life with your money. So why do they care, right? So crypto seizures by police, all right? It's not just taxes. Your crypto could get seized by the IRS or the police, actually seized. The IRS Criminal Investigations Unit, the IRS-C1, and other agencies like the FBI are cracking down on crypto linked to crimes like money laundering or tax evasion. And I've told you this before, under totalitarian governments like Joe Stalin, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. In a country where the laws are so voluminous, everyone is a criminal, guys. Everyone's a criminal. There's no way around it. They just look what they did to President Trump. I mean, they fabricated a bunch of charges. They used illegal FISA warrants to get judges to go after him. And by the way, all those cases against him, the ones that already weren't thrown out, they all will be reversed on appeal. I guarantee you that. But in the interim, you got to pay millions of dollars for attorneys to fight these guys. And most people like you and I don't have billions of dollars to fight these government employees who absolutely have been trained since birth, since kindergarten, to hate people like you in the public school system. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. So ultimately, these units like the IRS-C1 and the FBI are cracking down on crypto linked to crimes. And of course, they're going to say, well, it was money laundering or tax evasion, and therefore you're under investigation, right? They don't like what you said about you don't want boys competing in girls' sports. They'll get some whack job like Liz Lerner or a guy like Peter Strzok or Lisa Page over at the FBI to fabricate a charge against you. That is what the fear is of many of my clients who come to me for legal advice about their finances and their taxes. So it's a real problem. So in 2022, they seized $3.36 billion from a Silk Road hacker named James Zong, who they allege hid it in a popcorn tin. All right. I guess that was his cold storage wallet. And for those of you who don't know what cold storage is, so cold storage is basically like a USB, like a little USB thingy where you have keys, your crypto keys, and you take your money off the exchange, you plug it into your computer, you download it into your wallet, and now it's not going to be subject to being attacked by, say, a hacker or a quantum computer expert, which we've been seeing happening quite a bit, right? And then with quantum computing, another problem is it may ultimately show vulnerabilities in the actual blockchain. And if that happens, all your crypto could just disappear overnight. And so that's why a lot of people are scared of crypto and hedging with gold and silver and just trying to stack up on that and hide it, right? Because of the vulnerabilities. But a lot of other people who are experts are saying, well, with quantum computing, we can strengthen the blockchain and protect the crypto. So there's sort of two sides to that. So just so you guys kind of understand, I try to tell you what I know based on my limited knowledge. I'm not an expert by any means in finance or crypto. Okay. So ultimately, they grabbed $1.2 billion in this guy's crypto, and the seizures are growing. And what they're doing is they're using what's called civil asset forfeiture laws, which come from ancient English common law. And then that was morphed into maritime law, which basically it's called the law of the deodand. And basically it's the property that's guilty. So they'll seize your money. If they pull you over, a drug sniffing dog will come out, sniff your money, and they're trained to obviously alert on money, not just drugs, so they can steal your crap. And then they'll use that money, they'll split it with the U.S. prosecutor to enrich the local police departments, right? And make the mayor look good, make the chief look good, get some new police cruisers, build a new police station, right? Make themselves look good, right? Because that's what government employees do, right? They use your money to enrich themselves. And that's why our founding fathers wanted limited government, because they knew that. They understood that. They never, ever, ever wanted to have a government-run education system. Why? Because now if you have a centralized power, they can brainwash all your kids, which is precisely what they've done. All of a sudden, Biden gets elected, and every young kindergartner thinks that boys should wear dresses. Why do you think that is? Because the National Education Association, the California Teachers Association, all the teachers unions are far left psychopaths, and they want to make sure that they can brainwash your kids. And that's why people like Malcolm X said, never, ever let your enemy raise your kids. Homeschool your kids. Repeat after me. Homeschool your kids. Get them out of those government-run educational systems. It's not even education, it's propaganda. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. But it's not just your taxes, right? These guys they're coming after you, all right? They're definitely coming after you. And so just really quickly, they got $1.2 billion in crypto from this guy, and they're using that civil asset forfeiture law in order to do that. So how do the seizures work? If the feds suspect your crypto is tied to illegal activity, they can seize it using a court warrant for amounts under $500,000 or through administrative forfeiture without a judge's approval. They don't even need a warrant. And they can use blockchain analytics to trace your wallet. So if you plug your wallet into your computer, now they can track it and they can see the transactions on the blockchain. So they'll know it was your wallet that it came from. So there's no hiding from it, guys. And that's why a lot of people who are understanding what really happened are going back to gold and silver. That's something that a lot of people are telling me they're doing because they're terrified of this. So, even DeFi isn't fully anonymous. So in 2024, they busted $230 million alleged crypto scam, seizing Bitcoin from wallets linked to fraud, allegedly. And once seized, the U.S. Marshal Service auctions it off, like the 185,000 Bitcoins that they sold since 2014, worth billions today if they would have kept it. So what's the matter, you? Good seeing you, man. And I love having What's the Matter, you, because he's like a visionary. He already knew all this stuff years ago, and he saw the writing on the wall. So it's always cool to have him on here because he's sort of like that. I've got the devil and the angel on each of my shoulders. So that's another reason why I like to have a wide variety of people on my channel, not just people who are liberals or Republicans or libertarians. I like to just have a bunch of people so we can all really get into the nitty gritty and learn things from each other, right? Because it's not about winning over someone. It's about winning them over, right? You want to win people over. You don't want to win over them. That's just going to breed hate and dissatisfaction. So now, suing the police or the IRS, can you fight back if your crypto gets seized? Well, yeah, but it's pretty tough, guys. You can sue the IRS or the police if you think the seizure was unlawful, like a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches or seizures. For example, in 2021, James Harper, he sued the IRS over a John Doe summons that grabbed his Coinbase records, claiming that it was unconstitutional and that it was an overreach. The case got dismissed due to the Anti-Injunction Act, which blocks lawsuits that interfere with tax collection. I mean, can you believe this? This is unbelievable. So, I mean, can you believe that we have laws like this that prevent people from suing just because someone alleges that it was connected to taxes? And that's what they do, guys. I mean, it's unbelievable to me that this is allowed to happen. So it blocks lawsuits that the government thinks interfere with tax collection. Now, that is at the Supreme Court, but who knows, with justices like Ketanji Brown, who doesn't even know the biological difference between a man or a woman, do you really think we have a chance with people like that being appointed to the bench? I don't. So now, with support from people like Elon Musk's X, it might have a chance. I mean, he might do some amicus briefs to join us. He might pay off the right politicians to help us. But I don't know. I mean, that guy's got a top secret clearance, and he's connected with who? The World Economic Forum. I mean, the lady who ran X was a hardcore Marxist lefty over at the World Economic Forum, a young world leader, if I'm not mistaken. So, and he appointed her the CEO of X. So I don't have a lot of faith in Elon either. And he's also the one that talks about replacing us with robots, and that we need to have a living, basically the government give everybody a paycheck kind of a thing. I don't buy that at all. It just devalues currency. So now, to sue, you'd need to prove that the seizure lacked probable cause or violated due process. For example, in Ireland, a guy lost 45 million quid in crypto because the police seized his wallet, but Bitcoin, but they couldn't access it without his private key. All right. So if you win, you might get your crypto back or your damages, but the feds have sovereign immunity. That's another problem. They've got sovereign immunity. So in order to sue the police or the federal government, they have to agree that you have the right to sue them. And so you've got to go through the Tort Claims Act and all this other stuff to be able to get recompense. So that's kind of scary, right? So lawsuits are really an uphill battle, and you're really going to need a top-notch lawyer, and the costs are going to pile up fast. So my advice, really, if I could give you advice, my advice to myself is, okay, keep detailed records of your transactions and avoid shady platforms to reduce seizure risks. Now, a lot of people are asking me about renouncing their U.S. citizenship. How could I avoid all this? Couldn't I just renounce my citizenship? I mean, I just made a bunch of money in Bitcoin. Now I can leave this nightmare hellhole that was created for us in 1913 by Woodrow Wilson and maybe move to a free country like El Salvador or Costa Rica or somewhere where you can actually go to a pharmacy and get maybe some ivermectin without some prescription, right? Without the government getting involved, right? It's funny how third world countries have more freedom than the United States. That's crazy to me. So basically, here's how it works. This is a big one, guys. Renouncing your U.S. citizenship may be the only way to gain economic independence in your crypto, unfortunately. Some crypto bros think so. Since the U.S. taxes worldwide income, even if you live abroad, you're screwed. Now, one of the outs, again, is if you relocate in Puerto Rico. I think that's the only way. You've got to basically go to Puerto Rico and live there for the rest of your life and work from there and everything. And that's one of the ways around it. And the other way is renouncing your U.S. citizenship. So, but there's a problem. Now, let's talk about this. Moving to a crypto-friendly place like El Salvador, where there's no capital gains tax on Bitcoin, or Portugal, might help you dodge U.S. taxes. But again, the problem is if you're a U.S. citizen, it doesn't matter where you live, the long arm of the law, they call it the long arm of the law, will follow you there. And if there's an extradition treaty, they're going to get you because they want your money. They want to create more government employees that are going to vote for their policies and keep them on the government payroll. And that's just how it works, guys. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. So now the problem is renouncing your citizenship is a massive step with huge catches. The U.S. passport stamp canceled is a problem. So, and there's also what they call an exit tax. So don't think that you're out of it, right? If your net worth is over $2 million, you could owe significant taxes. And the IRS treats renunciation like you sold all your assets the day before you leave. So it's a taxable event. So let's say you've got $3 million in Bitcoin with a $2 million gain. You could owe taxes on that gain, like $400,000 at a 20% capital gains rate, just because you want to renounce your citizenship. Plus, there's a $2,300 fee and legal costs. Now, hiring a lawyer to help you renounce your U.S. citizenship isn't cheap, by the way. I've had a couple of my former clients say that it's up to $200,000 to $300,000 in legal fees to do that. So it's no joke. And if you didn't report your last crypto gains, the IRS can still chase you for those. So look at Oleg Tinkov, a Russian oligarch who renounced in 2013 and paid $500 million in taxes and penalties for hiding $1.1 million in assets, $1.1 billion in assets. So basically they took half of his money, right? Half of his income. But even then, probably if he was able to hold on to that Bitcoin, it just keeps going up. So that probably was a deal for him, right? So renouncing also means losing U.S. benefits. Well, I don't really think it's much of a benefit, but we'll talk about them. Social Security. And then re-entering the U.S. can be a hassle. Well, unless you're an illegal alien, right, and a Democrat's in power, then you can walk across, get a free hotel. You could get SNAP benefits if they declare you temporary protective status. Free stuff for your kids, right? Your kids can become citizens. You know, you can live like a king if you're an illegal alien. But if you renounced your U.S. citizenship, it's much harder for you to come in and do what somebody who just walked across the border who wasn't a U.S. citizen first. And that's something that I covered in a previous video. So that's kind of scary as well. So is it the only way to economic freedom? No, it's not. You can stay compliant by reporting all your transaction. You can use tax-advantaged accounts, or you can move to a low-tax U.S. state like Wyoming, okay? So that's another way you can do it. Smart planning beats drastic moves, say many. And I've talked to my accountant, and obviously I don't want to renounce. I mean, I was a Marine, man. I bleed red, white, and blue. I love my country. I just don't love my government. Give me a bunch of ones if you identify with that philosophy. So how do you avoid penalties and seizures? Again, you want to track every crypto transaction. You want to use software like CoinTracker. If you hold assets for over a year, you can lower your long-term capital gains. And 0% of your income under $48,350 as a single filer in 2025. If you're behind, consider a voluntary disclosure to come clean before the IRS knocks. And if your crypto gets seized, talk to a lawyer to explore your options. Now, recent laws like the Genius Act passed in July of 2025, just a few days ago, regulate stable coins. And so stable coins are basically a way for the government to take crypto and put it, because it's so volatile, it goes up and down in value just every second, right? So a stable coin basically ties it to the dollar. So if you have a $1 stable coin, it can purchase you something that's worth $1. And hopefully that obviates you having to report a capital gain or maybe a loss, right? So that's an issue. So now, that could ease some tax burdens if cryptos are classified as commodities and not securities. But for now, compliance is your best defense. So the bottom line, crypto taxes and seizures are real, and the IRS isn't messing around. Suing might be an option, but it's a long shot. Renouncing U.S. citizenship, it's not the golden ticket to economic freedom, as I just discussed. So it's costly and complicated. So stay smart, keep records, and work with a crypto tax pro to protect your gains. Now, what's your take on this, guys? What do you guys think? Have you dealt with crypto taxes or seizures? Or are you thinking about renouncing your citizenship? I mean, you don't have to tell me if you want to do that in the sidebar, but you know, if you're interested in reaching out, hey, Mia, it's good seeing you. And I don't think regulating the Second Amendment is good, Mias. I think that that's absurd. The Second Amendment, it's very clear that it's not supposed to be regulated. but I understand everybody has a different point of view. So, but if you do have any comments about this, drop it in the comments section there, and then let's talk about it. And obviously, I want you to make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button and tap that bell for future notifications. And, you know, more than anything, I want you to stay safe in the crypto game. Now, let's just go ahead and take a look here. If I have anything else here that we can talk about. Yeah, so that's pretty much what's going on with the crypto legislation. In other words, it's making it easier for the IRS to come after you. Now, there might be some upsides to these big corporations who are getting some legislative certainty about what they do and don't do. So people that own heavy interests in XRP or Ethereum or Bitcoin, at least now they have a little bit more clarity in what the IRS might do to them. And it's helping them register ETFs so they can sell things to you like that. So that's kind of, well, Mias Taro, Second Amendment laws don't do anything to help public safety. They just help criminals because it makes it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to be able to defend and protect their families and their country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Criminals don't obey gun laws. The only thing that gun laws do is make it harder for law-abiding citizens like you and I. So I would take exception to you on that, but with respect, of course, because I love having you on my channel. So don't take it as an insult, and nobody attack her for having a different point of view. The whole point of having my channel is so that we can have civil discourse and not try to insult each other. Okay, at least that's what I would like to see happen here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my next video with you. And this is a CBS News show where it kind of talks a little bit about what just happened. So let's get into it. It's only 5 minutes.
A landmark bill establishing a regulatory framework for the roughly $250 billion cryptocurrency market known as stablecoin has become law. President Trump signed the so-called Genius Act at the White House today and gave remarks.
And with today's signing, we're pushing even further into the exciting new frontier. Just as I promised last year, the Genius Act creates a clear and simple regulatory framework to establish and unleash the immense promise of dollar-backed stable coins. This could be perhaps the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the internet itself.
Bo Hines joins us now from the White House. He is the executive director of the President's Council of Advisors on Digital Assets, more commonly known as the Crypto Council. Bo, I know this is a huge day for you, so thanks so much for spending a little bit of it with us.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So can you just explain what this law does in practice, especially when it comes to offering more protections for consumers who either invest in crypto or want to, but they're not sure?
Sure, yeah. So this is landmark legislation that overhauls the entire financial system. It creates new payment rails. For U.S. consumers, these rails will be much more transparent, more efficient, more cost-effective. So a stable coin is literally a digital dollar that's backed by a real dollar in a bank account somewhere else. And so what we have here is, we're pushing U.S. dollars globally. It gives others in different parts of the world the opportunity to have dollar-backed stable coins in the account. It keeps their money secure and safe. For these stablecoin issuers now, they have to be one-to-one backed. They have to prove they're one-to-one backed in an audit. So we have now full transparency of what they're doing. We're onshoring a lot of the folks that were engaged in this space in the beginning. But, I can't overstate how big of a deal this is. This lays the groundwork for tokenization of public securities. It revolutionizes our financial system.
And Bill, obviously, with all things that have to do with new technology like this, it is a race, a competition. Does the Genius Act do anything to make sure that U.S. stablecoin issuers are going to be the gold standard and that world leaders, recognize this in some way?
Well, even the stablecoin issuers that are offshore now fall under this regulatory regime, which is why this is so huge. Look, the most sought-after thing in the world is the U.S. dollar. They're injecting that into foreign economies, and this secures U.S. dollar global dominance for decades to come. You know, one of the stablecoin issuers that's offshore is going to be the fourth largest purchaser of U.S. treasuries, including all countries this year. I mean, that's a remarkable statistic. So now we're not relying on foreign actors any longer just buying U.S. debt. You're going to have private enterprise doing the same thing. But, who stands to benefit from this is the American people, the American consumer. This technology is revolutionizing the financial system in really tremendous ways. And a lot of what's happening in the crypto space is propelling that forward. So, this is an industry that has been broadly beaten down and kicked down over the course of the last decade. They were victims of policymaking through prosecution and persecution. And now we have a president that recognizes their legitimacy. He stepped up in a huge way to lead the charge on this. And also, I'd be remiss not to thank our brilliant AI and crypto czar, David Sachs. He's done a phenomenal job. He's been the guiding star. This is just fantastic bipartisan work. Over 300 votes in the House for this piece of legislation.
Yeah. Well, on that note about the president's enthusiasm, of course, there are also concerns from Democrats, from others, watchdog groups, that, the president and his family stand to make a whole lot of money here because
Well, anybody who has anything invested in the S&P 500 or NASDAQ stands to make a lot of Federal Reserve notes as well. And it really cracks me up when you see that Nancy Pelosi and Liz Warren, with all the money they receive from Big Pharma, along with all these other so-called progressives who have made millions, like almost, I think, billions actually, from what many people call insider trading, are now over here criticizing Trump about cryptocurrency. They're all just a bunch of hypocrites. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree.
Though the provision in the bill, there is one that prohibits any member of Congress or senior executive branch official from issuing a payment stablecoin product during their time in public service. That does not extend to the president or the vice president, for that matter. Why not?
Well, look, the president's family has the right to engage in this space like anyone else. They're private citizens. His interest here is controlled in the blind trust. They're great business people. The president obviously is a phenomenal business person. So are his sons. If they weren't engaged in this emerging technological space, then they probably wouldn't be great business people, to be honest with you, because this is where everything is happening. And they have every right to do that. Look, Democrats weren't that concerned about it because, I have right here the vote total from the cloakroom, and we have, let's see, over 102 Democratic votes for this piece of legislation. So, we feel good about where we are. We're going to continue. We're going to continue to push forward on the crypto agenda, and we're going to get market structure done next.
Can you reassure the American public that there's not a conflict of interest if the president is actively engaged in his family's business?
There's absolutely zero conflict of interest here. None. Not at all. The president has every right, or his family has every right to engage in any space they choose in the U.S. economy. And this space is no different. Why is crypto treated differently than anything else?
And finally, Bo, the president just said a short time ago he'd be growing crypto even more. Do you have any news to share with us?
The president plans on signing market structure legislation into law. So one thing that was missed from some folks yesterday is, clarity moved forward in a bipartisan way as well. I think they had 78 Democrats sign onto that piece of legislation in the House. That's going to go over to the Senate chamber. It's going to get tightened up a little bit there. But, the Clarity Act provides the rules of the road for the digital asset firms in the space. It tells them who the regulator is and what authority that regulator has. When this is through, we will absolutely cement ourselves as the crypto capital of the world. Today was a monumental step in doing that. And really, this is about the president delivering on his promises to this industry and to the American consumer, which he is obviously doing with this bill signing today.
All right, Bo Hines, thank you so much for your time.
Wild, wild stuff, guys. So you kind of see what's going on here. It's almost like a Trojan horse, right? So we know that the government always protect themselves, right? These politicians, they always protect themselves. They get to do insider trading, but they don't call it that. And their friends over at Google and Wikipedia protect them. And they'll tell you that you're engaged in misinformation or disinformation if you expose them. or their friends over at the WHO, for example, or Bill Gates, right? The Epstein Island visitors, they're all protected, including the president if he went to Epstein Island, which most people say that he didn't go there and hang out with the Clintons and all those guys. But either way, it's probably a Trojan horse, right? So I would be very, very aware of what's going on, and I'll cover more about the crypto legislation, and I'll try to delve deeper into it as I learn more. And I'll try to have some cryptocurrency experts come on and talk more about it. But in the meantime, I'll be honest with you, I was investing in XRP when it was like 220 or 240. I log in today, it's up to like 350 or something. Here, let me take a look really quick. Just bear with me. This is really crazy. Oh, I'm just seeing my text messages here. Hey, Rami, did that echo go away on the video? I'm hoping it did. So really quickly, let me just tell you what's going on. So right now, as we speak, Bitcoin is at $118,136 a coin. And that's very volatile. It goes up and down. It was like $120,000 last week. And then it goes down and people go, oh, see, look, crypto's failing. It went down. No, guys, that's when you buy. You buy at the dip, right? And then it goes back up. But the problem is when you sell it, now you've got a taxable event. So look, I'm just holding it, because if you hold your crypto now, because it's becoming more mainstream, it can be a store of value where you can borrow against it on a mortgage, for example. It's like, why would you ever want to sell it? But let's get into the next thing here. Really quick, I'm trying to find XRP, $3.50 a coin right now. It was at $3.55 about an hour ago. So if you bought a couple thousand shares at $2 a share, guys, that's a pretty nice gain. It's nice for me to log into Robinhood and see that I've made like 10 grand in the last 2 weeks. You know, I kind of like that. What do you guys think? That's kind of cool. Now, Ethereum. This morning when I logged in, it was at $3,815 a coin. You got to be kidding me. I think I was buying it for like a little under $2,000 a coin. So I made a huge busload of money. And now the question is, do I want to sell it and take the gains? Me personally, the way I'm doing it is I'm not putting any more money in it than I can afford to lose. All right. Not that I want to lose money, but when I say lose, what I mean is, what if there's a dip and the dip lasts for a couple of years? I'm okay with that. For me, it's about my kids. It's about generational wealth. Now, one of the problems that I have with Ethereum, and you guys who are more in the know about this, I don't think that there's a cap on it. So I think they can keep creating more. So that's a problem. Unlike Bitcoin, where there's a finite amount, that's what makes it more valuable. So I'm a little standoffish with Ethereum, but at the same token, Ethereum is a platform upon which banks and other people can build their currency systems and their payment systems. So it'll probably still keep going up in value, but I don't see it as being the same store of value that true Bitcoin is. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Now, let me see here. Quana says, I bought into Jesus early, didn't tell nobody. Smartest move I ever did. I ain't selling never. Oh, that's cool. Right on, Quana. Well, look, I'm a man of faith as well, and I think that you definitely need to believe in a higher power. And I was raised as a Christian, so I have no arguments with that. So let's take a look here. I'm just looking at some of the comments before I get into the next video. Now, this next video that I'm going to show you is from Grow Rich, Grow Happy. And this guy's only got about 11,000 subscribers, but I really like his channel. It's only about 8 minutes. I'm going to drop the link. I recommend that you guys subscribe to his channel and tell him to get better audio. Because I think if he spends a little bit of extra money and gets a Shure microphone, I think his channel is really going to take off. This dude, to me, this guy is really good. And I have a lot of respect for this dude. I don't even know his name. But on his channel, it says, a free thinker doesn't just dream. They bridge the impossible, unbound by limits. They know belief transforms the unattainable into reality. Mr. Foresight, life influencer. Well, maybe he's Mr. Foresight. I don't know, but I like the guy. I want you to consider liking and subscribing to his channel. I just dropped a link. It's only 8 minutes long. Let's listen to what he has to say, because a lot of the things that he has to say really gave me pause for thought about this crypto legislation and what's going on in this country.
Today's message: potential that goes unused simply becomes dead weight. So let me ask you, are you harboring unused potential? Seriously, think about that. Welcome back, all my free thinkers, to Grow Rich, Grow Happy, that place where we follow the breadcrumbs of wealth. Guys, man, I got some news for you. Now, it's unpleasant, but there's an answer, and that answer lies in something that I tell you in each video that I make. Guys, they want your crypto. And by they, I mean the powers that be. And in one state, they are now putting a bill together, or have put a bill together, to claim your crypto. Yes, if you're wondering how this can happen, I am going to show you. And I'm going to show you why now is more important than anything. That, guys, you get you a cold storage wallet. Not your keys, not your crypto. And I'm not even doing this to promote the Tangent wallets that I'm always talking about here, guys. I'm doing this. You can choose any cold storage wallet that you want. Although I would love that you choose a Tangent, but you can use any cold storage wallet you want. The key is that you take self-custody of your crypto. And in this video, I'm going to show you why now is so important, guys. If this is your first time here to Grow Rich, Grow Happy, I want to thank you for showing up and showing out always for me, guys. My name is Mr. Foresight, for those that don't know. And my channel is about crypto, but it's more so about mindset and shifting your mindset, because I understand more than anybody else that the internal war that we have inside of us many times keeps us from achieving the best things in life. And I know that once you conquer that, conquer self, then everything else will fall into place. And when we're talking about crypto, the most emotional game it is out there when it comes to dealing with assets, I understand that you have to have your emotions intact. So, guys, if this sounds like a channel for you, by all means, do me a favor, smash that like button, give me a sub, hit that bell notification, and by all means, guys, pass these videos on, especially this one if you know someone who's in crypto. And while you're at it, take a look down below at the freebies I have. But more than ever, guys, really think about getting a Tangent wallet. I have a 10% discount down below that goes to support the channel. I thank you in advance. So what am I talking about, guys? So I ran across something that slid under the radar, and this happened earlier in the month of June, and I didn't even notice it. Those of you who follow me over on Instagram, you might have seen it last night when I shared it over on Instagram. Make sure you follow me. It's always actually on this page right here, and also follow me over on X. If it doesn't have a blue check, then it's not me. Okay, so what's going on? California's bill sparks backlash over seizure of inactive crypto wallets. Yep, guys. So this is what's going on in California, and they slid this by, guys. I bet you a lot of people in the crypto community, those in California, let me know. Shout out down below if you're in California. I bet you ask the question, did you know this was going on? Well, what's going on, guys? And this bill is already made its way. It's on its way to the Senate, and it passed 78 votes to 0. Everyone wants this. And how it works is, guys, if you have crypto, and a lot of you out there have crypto on centralized exchanges, I'm always telling you about that. If that crypto goes unused for 5 years, that means without you interacting with it, let me tell you, a lot of whales don't touch wallets. I have wallets that have probably been sitting longer than that I haven't interacted with, probably because I forgot, for one. And I'm going to look into that. But if it's on a centralized exchange, they have a right now in California, at least they will, because I'm pretty sure, even though they say it needs to be amended, if the Senate say so. But 78 votes to 0, we know where this is going. They have a right to seize your assets, kind of like they do if in a death or something, if there's unclaimed property or something like that, they can seize it.
That's right. The single party state of Communist Fornia signed a law just recently. Gavin Newsom went ahead and signed it into law that if your crypto is inactive for a certain amount of time on one of these currency exchanges, that the communists over in California can just seize it, right? Because obviously they need to pay for their blue-haired mafia public school teachers so they can tell little boys that they need to wear dresses, right, guys? Makes sense, right? Of course it does.
To seize it. They didn't say, they say that they're going to seize it, and they're going to keep it there until someone comes and proves it's their crypto, and then it will be returned. Doesn't sound right to me. It sounds a lot fishy, guys. And they know that there's a lot of wallets out there that people haven't touched. I told you guys, whales, they hold wallets and they may not touch. A lot of you probably got crypto stored on a centralized exchange right now thinking, you know what, I'm going to stash it. I'm not going to touch it. Now, they say it's important. Like, this bill doesn't say anything about self-custody. Actually, the article I read said that for self-custody wallets, it doesn't say anything because those are your keys. They can't do anything with that. So they believe that a bill like this is going to push people more to self-custody.
Yeah,
this is why I'm always telling you guys, if you have it on a centralized exchange, it's not really yours to say, you know what? No, you can't touch it. These exchanges, they can take it. They can, if they get into any kind of trouble with the SEC or something else, or in a lawsuit or something, they're going to freeze your assets. They're going to freeze them. And my biggest fear is always for people who have their crypto on these exchanges, and something happens where the exchange freezes your assets, and you got a Zebit or something that went to $1, or you got an XRP that went to $10. And now you're sitting there and you can't do anything about it while people like me are selling mine and, you know, taking that money, those profits, and taking care of business. These are the things you have to worry about. And I'm glad I actually have you guys in the free thinking community, because I'm going to keep you updated on things like this. Again, this happened June 6th. I'm going to leave the article down below so you guys can check it out. And for anyone thinking I'm just making this up, I'm going to pop over and I'm going to show you right here. California bill sparks backlash over seizure of inactive crypto wallets, guys. And it's right here. And I'm going to put this down below. Look at this right here. The bill cleared the state assembly with unanimous support, 78-0, and it's now headed to the Senate, where it still may face amendments, guys. A shift in the meaning of not your keys, because that's exactly what we got going on right now. This is a big deal. Let me know down below. Guys, what do you think? And sound off down below. How many of you guys, I'm gonna get you with this one, how many of you guys still do not have a self-custody cold storage wallet? Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's a Tangem or whatever. Sound off down below if you still keep your funds on a centralized exchange, guys.
Yeah, you need to get it off of there. There's no question about that. So what I've got a question for you guys, because I'm not a crypto genius. Okay. I own enough to where if it keeps its trajectory that I'll be able to retire and leave my children with generational wealth. But I'm not an expert on these crypto wallets, right? So I heard that there's a cold storage wallet that will let you store more than just Bitcoin, where you could store like your XRP, your Ethereum, your Solana, whatever it is that you have, as well as your Bitcoin in one wallet. And so I've seen some videos where they say, don't just have a crypto wallet, but have a piece of titanium where you etch your keys into it that can withstand a fire. So if your actual wallet gets burned up in a fire or whatever, you'll still have your crypto keys where you would somehow be able to recover your crypto. And so I've talked to another guy. He's a very famous YouTuber, involved heavily in the auditor community. I think he actually owned a couple of Bitcoins, and now we can't find them. And I'm pretty sure if he'd found them, he probably wouldn't even be doing his show anymore, because he would be able to retire comfortably anywhere that he wanted to, based upon just the amount of Bitcoin that he owned. So think about that. So cold storage wallet, as well as having your keys etched somewhere. And then, of course, we covered today a little bit about the ways that you can protect your wealth from the IRS and the Marxist Democrats who want to take all your money and redistribute it to the illegal aliens and people who will make it possible for them to take more House seats using the U.S. Census. And one of them was renouncing your U.S. citizenship, which has a lot of pitfalls. Another one would be moving to Puerto Rico. I have family members down in El Salvador who are killing it in crypto, just absolutely killing it, because it's a crypto economy. And I remember people were trashing Bukele, saying how terrible he was going to be. And instead, he got rid of all the MS-13 and 18th Street gangbangers, locked them up. And when you go down to El Salvador, because I go down there all the time, when you go down to El Salvador, it is amazing. It's basically Los Angeles became what El Salvador was. Bunch of criminal illegal aliens burning the American flags, raising waving rainbow flags, trying to destroy the minds of your children. And you go down there, it's very family oriented. It's very free. It's clean. San Salvador is one of the safest places in the world. And the women and the men are to a T from who I've met, just very good, honorable, law-abiding, respectful people. They don't want any trouble. They have got those traditional Christian values that we once had in this country that made America such a great place to live. So, does anybody have any questions for me before I go ahead and close out the show for today about crypto, about the law, about illegal searches and seizures, about civil asset forfeiture? And again, guys, this is a donations only channel. So the best way for you to support my channel, besides buying a copy of my book about how to become a lawyer with no law degree or undergrad for $19.99, by going to the description on my YouTube channel and clicking on the PayPal link, one of the best ways, besides super chats and all that, is to buy a bundle of subscriptions. Because those subscriptions, I think it's like $1 or $2 a month, if I'm not mistaken, those go out to other people on YouTube that the algorithm thinks might be potential good candidates for members on this channel who might like the content, and help us create a parallel system. And then the next thing that I want to tell you guys is try and become friends with the people that are on my channel that you see. Like click on their links that you see there, like right click it and subscribe to their channels, reach out to them and try to form parallel systems. That's super, super important. So we can do business with each other, trade crypto with each other, and try to help the homeschooling community. And then in a couple of weeks, I'm going to try to have Brett Pike come back on and talk about homeschooling, how to get your kids out of these public schools that have weirdos like this lunar guy who want to brainwash your little boy into thinking as a girl and give him estrogen pills. I mean, how disgusting is that someone would want to take God's creation and fill a little boy up with a bunch of estrogen and brainwash him into hating his parents and hating the country. Absurd. Oh, thank you, Ian Copedog. Looks like Ian Copedog just became a member. We got a new Lance Corporal level member. Arrah! So I appreciate that. Thank you for becoming a member of my channel, man. That's awesome. Me a bunch of ones for Ian.Copedog. Love it, love it, love it. So yeah, I really do appreciate it. Let's see here. I'm just looking at some of the comments here. Yeah, all it is human experimentations. That's what Beyond Watcher program says. It's just human. Of course it is. Trying to force you to take injections that alter your DNA. And then if you talk about it, you'll get your channel banned, right? By the powers that be, who receive an enormous amount of money from the WHO and Big Pharma. And they'll say that you're engaged in misinformation when in reality, you're just telling the truth, right? That's what we want to avoid. That's why I would like it if you guys are interested in helping me build a Rumble community where we have more free speech rights, so we can talk about that. We can talk about all your friends and family members who passed away after they were forced to go along with the program. I'm speaking with bated breath, right? And then they died from that. They died of strokes or thrombosis or myocarditis. And even though it says that it's a an effect of that, you'll be accused of misinformation or disinformation and lose your channel and get a strike. Wow. So if you guys are interested, if anybody wants to help me out to build a community over there, let's definitely do that. But hopefully you like my rebranding. I'm getting more into natural law, not just cop watch videos, trying to talk about financial freedom, financial independence, homeschooling your kids, getting them away from the blue-haired psychopaths like this lunar guy that we just saw on the channel, and taking back your rights and taking back your freedoms as American free men and women upon the land. So, yeah, Ian.Copedog said he says he got neuropathy in the feet. Man, there's so many things going on, Lenny Molly, that we can't even talk about on YouTube without risking getting banned. And that's always really scary. Even if there's an overwhelming scientific consensus that what we're saying is true, we'll be accused of misinformation and disinformation. That's all holdover from Barack Obama and Sleepy Joe, by the way. That's how much power and influence they have over Silicon Valley and all these whack jobs that still run Mountain View, for example. So let me see here if I can see any other questions here. Yeah, BP Slick says he just got blocked on 2 channels for pointing out the facts as I'm a BP agent. Well, it happens, man. That's why I'm thinking like Rumble might be a good way to go. We've got close to 60,000 subscribers now on this channel. And I think a lot of them would like to be able to talk about things without having to risk getting banned. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. So what I'll do is I'll work with some of my other friends and we'll try to start building communities off grid so we can really talk about things that we're being denied the right to talk about. Hey, what's going on, Rogue Nation? Pimps and players. That's right, buddy. Good seeing you, man. So, and with that being said, guys, it is a Sunday. I do need to spend some time with the kids. As you guys know, I homeschool, so I'm teaching my kids Latin and what else? Classical education, right? Aristotle, Socrates, Blackstone's commentaries on the English law, Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, cursive writing, as well as Spanish, Castilian Spanish. So I'm doing everything that I can to teach these kids so they don't have to deal with these public school communist Marxist scum that are part of the National Education Association, in particular the California Teachers Association. So Mr. Osgood, thank you for joining me today. Ian.Copedog, thank you guys for your support. I mean, even if it's $1.99 super chat, that helps me set up a Roth IRA for the kids. My kids are learning how to be entrepreneurs. I have them helping me with video production and editing, teaching them how to run a business so they don't have to get a degree in African-American studies or underwater basket weaving or gender studies and then end up getting a job at Starbucks as a career, okay? Trying to teach them how to be normal kids like when I grew up, right? Teach them about the Second Amendment. My daughter already knows how to field strip a 1911 and clean it, put it back together again. So these are the types of things that I think that all parents should be teaching their kids. Living off grid, how to grow your own food, homesteading, homeschooling, building parallel systems with like-minded people so we're not brainwashed by Communist News Network and PMSNBC. So thank you, Lenny. And I love you too, brother. And I really do appreciate your support of the channel. And just know that I'm not a typical like a YouTube grifter. I've got my own law firm. If I wasn't doing this channel right now, I would be making a decent amount of money to support my family. I do these things of my own free will, of my own accord, because I'm hoping that I can just change a few people and at least win them over to the position of freedom and liberty. And that's what this show is really about. And Mias Taro, I do appreciate you coming on the channel and giving all the members a different point of view. Even though we don't agree on everything, I think you're awesome. And I do appreciate you being here. Gloria Ad. Yes, Gloria. Give me a bunch of ones for Gloria, one of my longtime supporters, supporting my channel and helping me support Chili DeCastro's channel when I helped him run it when he was illegally imprisoned against his will. And eventually he won that case. And I was able to visit him in jail and give him that satisfaction of knowing that people care about him who aren't just looking to get something out of it. And that's what it's really about, guys, is we need to support one another. Let's OTVO, thank you so much. Another guy, Let's OTVO, he flew all the way out to Nevada to visit Chile de Castro and try to see him in court and give him that satisfaction of knowing that people cared about him. And Letzo TVO is a really good guy, former Navy veteran. I forgive you for not being a Marine, brother. Just kidding. And Letzo TVO is about, 50 feet tall. He could probably crush my head with his left hand. Really good guy. And let me see here. East Carbon Exposed. Thank you for joining me today on the channel. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, guys. Make sure to save these videos too. That's a great way to let the algorithm know that you appreciate the show. I hope you guys learned a little bit about the cryptocurrency legislation and about what I think is potentially a wolf in sheep's clothing. And consider investing in gold and silver as a hedge against crypto. And remember, crypto is still an on-risk asset. And if this economy turns south, we are due for another recession. So I've been stocking up on FAS and things like that. If you guys play the markets, if you have a SEP or a Roth, I've been stocking up on FAS and UVIX, buying at the low, and just keeping that as basically an insurance policy. Because if the markets crash, that stuff's going to go through the roof, and it could potentially hedge against some of your losses. Just something, not that I'm giving you financial advice, I'm telling you what I'm doing. So that's something you might want to think about. And then Jody Shiloh, you are the most awesome, God-filled woman I've ever had on my channel. Really appreciate you, Jody. And Arthur Monk, thank you for your support of Team MPE. And hopefully you guys will start noticing. One of my friends and I are going to start working on some changes to the channel. We're going to start rebranding it. I'm going to start doing different thumbnails with less words, but more catchy. Trying to use a little bit more AI to help streamline the show. I'm teaching my kids how to do that as well. So hopefully you guys will like it. I'm basically changing the platform to natural law, because natural law covers everything that I'm talking about: parallel systems, economic independence from the government, freedom from government, freedom to rear your children the way that God intended you to, the right to keep and bear arms against all enemies, foreign and domestic, shall not be infringed. Stuff like that. Deuce 133737. Thank you for joining my channel and your comments. And I really appreciate all those double taps. And guys, by the way, these comments that you're doing here in the chat bar, they don't show up under the actual comments under the video. So when the video goes live, I would really appreciate it if you guys would try to add some comments, to which I will reply under the actual video once it gets published on YouTube, so we can keep it going. Because the more comments and chat we have on the actual video itself, not just in this sidebar, the more it's going to go viral, because we want to get the word out. We want to get the word out about financial independence, economic independence from government, and natural law. I want you guys to learn about John Locke. I want you to learn about the paradigm between Hobbes and Locke, about the king, and about why Americans sought their freedom from government. Hold on, I just got a message coming in. And I will do that, brother. I just got your text. I will do that. So I just want to thank everyone again. Gloria Ad, Lenny, Grateful Dabs, awesome having you here. And what's the matter? You, thanks for joining me. I didn't see Kinetic Customs on here. Guys, I've been having a problem. For some reason, I'm blocked from seeing Kinetic Customs. So it could be that one of my moderators blocked him. I'd appreciate it if you did that to unblock him. I'm going to go into my settings later today and try to figure out what happened. But because Kinetic Customs in Racing is one of my best moderators, and I consider him to be a very close friend. So don't think for a minute that I'm trying to block you, brother. You and what's the matter? You, to a large degree, have made my channel what it is today, and I don't want to lose you guys. So let me see here. Son Girl Merriman. Yeah, I feel for your kids if you think that it's okay for some Marxist blue-haired scumbag to brainwash boys into thinking they're girls. So we're on the same page there. Arthur Monk, yes, blood clots. And let me see here. Arthur Monk, yes. Let me see here. Beyond Watcher, BP Slick. Yeah, thank you for joining me today. And Ian.Copedog, again, thank you for becoming a paid subscriber of Team MPE. Every little bit helps, you know. It definitely convinces my wife to let me keep doing these shows. She would rather me be working on case files, so it means a lot that you joined me today. So guys, with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save. because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi.